sudden blast of static tears through the darkness. The screen flickers, crackling with interference as an eerie metallic voice pierces the silence. They're already here. In that instant, the world freezes, breath held, hearts stop. Then, chaos erupts. Emergency broadcasts flood every device. A foreign signal overlays human frequencies with garbled distortions. It's no accident. It's not a warning. It's an arrival. In a dim apartment, Cade Ramsey, 29, jolts awake to the shriek of the signal on his wall screen. Rain lashes against the glass as blue light pulses from the display. Government networks go dark. The skies above major cities bloom with unnatural patterns. Cade stumbles back, eyes locked on the transmission. Behind the noise, he hears something more. A whisper, layered under the code. "We've been waiting for you." Outside, sirens wail. In the distance, explosions. The illusion of peace is shattered. The invasion has begun, but the terror runs deeper. For Cade, this is only the beginning of a truth he was never meant to discover. Cade's heart pounded like a drumbeat in his chest. He staggered back, overwhelmed by the weight of what he just heard. The transmission was no accident. It was a declaration. His apartment suddenly felt like a coffin, every shadow suspicious, every flicker of light a warning. Somewhere in the chaos outside, the world was breaking. Sirens wailed. Distant gunfire echoed between buildings. But inside, all Cade could do was stare at the screen. Government feeds were silent. Social media had gone dark. Cell towers down. Nothing was coming in. Nothing was going out. And then, his screen went black. Just for a second. When it returned, a new image blinked into view. A symbol he had never seen before, etched in alien geometry. It pulsed, slow and ominous, like a heartbeat from another world. Cade whispered, "Why me?" But no one answered. The air itself felt charged, humming with invisible intent. The invasion hadn't just started. It had chosen him. Across the world, the signal spread like wildfire. No region was untouched. It hijacked satellites, broke through firewalls, bypassed encrypted networks. In cities, cars stopped mid-intersection. In villages, radios crackled with foreign tones. Scientists scrambled for answers. Military bases sealed off. But nothing could stop it. In an underground facility in Nevada, a general slammed his fist against the table. "It wasn't supposed to happen this way," he growled. Around him, command staff exchanged fearful glances. They had known something was coming, but not this. Not yet. Meanwhile, Cade sat frozen. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't special. But somehow, he was part of it. The whisper still echoed in his mind. "We've been waiting for you." That voice, ancient, intelligent, patient. It didn't threaten. It promised. Whatever this was, it had only just begun, and Cade was at the center of it. Outside, chaos deepened. Police and military scrambled through the streets, trying to maintain order. Helicopters roared overhead. Drones zipped between buildings, scanning for anomalies. But they were blind. Nothing tracked this alien signal. It moved like a ghost through circuits and sky. Cade's phone buzzed to life. One notification. One name. Jessa. He tapped it. A video opened, Jessa's face, terrified, recorded in a rush. "Cade, if you're seeing this, they found you. I don't know how they knew. But it's real. Everything they told us. It's happening." Static cut in. "Don't trust anyone. Get out, now." Then darkness. Jessa had vanished from his life 5 years ago. Her reappearance now was no coincidence. Cade's hands trembled. He looked out the window as searchlights swept through the sky. The signal had found him. But so had someone else. Cade didn't pack. He just moved. The moment Jessa's message ended, his instincts took over. He grabbed his jacket, slipped on his boots, and left his apartment behind. The stairwell was empty, eerily silent. Outside, the city was no longer itself. People ran in all directions. Lights flickered. Buildings loomed like watching giants under the stormy sky. A strange resonance filled the air, as if the ground itself was humming. As Cade stepped into the street, he saw it, a flash of light high above, moving against the wind. A massive shape, obscured by clouds, hovered silently overhead. No engines. No sound. Just presence. And then it was gone. Vanished. Cade knew then, this wasn't just a global event. It was personal. And it had begun long before today. The warfront was here. And somehow, he was part of it. The streets felt like an echo chamber of fear. Cade ran, his breath shallow, legs aching, dodging panicked civilians and abandoned cars. Every corner felt like a trap. Every sound made him flinch. His mind reeled, not from the chaos outside, but from the message within. Why him? Why now? His thoughts drifted to his past, his sister's mysterious death, his father's obsession with deep space research, his own dreams that never made sense until now. None of this felt random. Somewhere deep down, he'd always known something was wrong with the world. Now, those old shadows surged forward, dragging memory into the present. He ducked into an alley, collapsed against a cold brick wall, and tried to breathe. "You're not crazy," Jessa had once told him years ago. "You're remembering." The words haunted him now more than ever. Because, maybe, she had been right. Maybe the truth had always been waiting. And maybe it was already inside him. Cade finally reached the underground safe house Jessa had once shown him. A forgotten subway tunnel beneath the city. He yanked open the rusted door, descended into darkness, and shut the world behind him. The flickering light from a single bulb revealed walls lined with conspiracy photos, maps and alien markings. Dust floated in the stale air like time itself had frozen. He stared at a corkboard covered in symbols, the same ones from the broadcast. He stepped closer, heart thudding. There in the center was a picture of him. Younger, smiling, naive, gut. The headline read, "Subject 27, Viable Carrier." Cade's voice broke as he whispered, "What the hell is this?" The room wasn't just a hideout, it was a map of his life, dissected and decoded by someone who knew more than he ever had. This wasn't just a war. It was a harvest. And he had always been marked. The room pulsed with silence, heavy and suffocating. Cade's eyes darted across the board, drawn to a section labeled the Silence Project. There were blueprints, coordinates, old government documents, and photos of his father. One, in particular, chilled him, his father shaking hands with a figure whose face was blurred out. Cade reached for the file, flipping through faded pages filled with coded language. Biological resonance potential confirmed. His hands trembled. He remembered the nights his father would stare at the stars, murmuring numbers under his breath. The whispers he thought were madness now felt like buried warnings. The man he once dismissed as paranoid had known the truth. And now he was gone. Maybe killed. Maybe taken. Cade's jaw clenched. "You knew," he said to the empty room. "You knew, and you left me to figure it out alone." But the silence answered only with memory. Footsteps echoed above. Cade froze. Someone was in the tunnel. He killed the light, pressing himself against the wall. A flashlight beam cut through the vent grates, sweeping across the floor. "We know you're down there," a voice called, calm, authoritative, inhumanly precise. Cade didn't move. A second voice whispered, layered beneath it like an echo. "He remembers." The light vanished. Footsteps retreated. Silence returned, but it was colder now, as if the tunnel itself was holding its breath. Cade stayed hidden, heart hammering. Whoever they were, they weren't human. Not anymore. He waited in the dark for what felt like hours. Then, finally, he emerged. But the tunnel wasn't empty anymore. A marking had been left on the far wall, a symbol drawn in blood, glowing faintly. The same symbol from the signal. It pulsed. Alive. "They're watching," Cade whispered. But even he knew it was worse than that. They were listening. Cade surfaced from the tunnel just before dawn. The sky was a strange shade, clouds frozen in unnatural formations, stars still visible long after sunrise showed begun. He stood on the city outskirts, breathing in the cold, electric air. Something was wrong with the world. Not just politically, not just technologically. Physically. Gravity felt heavier. Sounds lingered too long. The sun had stopped obeying its own rules. He walked toward the remnants of a collapsed communications station, cables sparking like open veins. A soldier's helmet lay nearby, cracked. No body. Just the silence of a war already lost. Then, from the rubble, he heard a voice. Weak, ragged, Cade. He spun. A figure crawled into view. Jessa. Pale, bloody, but alive. "They didn't want you to know," she said, collapsing in his arms. "But you were never supposed to forget." Cade held her close, the storm rising around them. The answers were coming, and they were going to hurt. Jessa sat against a scorched support beam, her breathing ragged. Cade wrapped his jacket around her shoulders, the wreckage of the comms tower still smoking behind them. She said, "You weren't supposed to be part of this, not this way." Her voice cracked under exhaustion. Cade shook his head. "I think I always was." Jessa looked up, eyes glassy. "The project. Your father warned them, but they went forward. They needed someone with your resonance signature." Cade felt the weight of her words press down like gravity. "He worked with them?" She nodded slowly. "At first, until he tried to stop it." She handed him a data shard, military-grade, encrypted. "It's all on here. Who knew what they hid? And what you really are." Cade stared at the shard. Answers were finally within reach, but would he be able to face them? Around them, the world crackled with distant thunder. Something was coming. And it wasn't done with them yet. Inside an abandoned military safe house, Cade inserted the data shard into a cracked terminal. Holographic files burst to life. Videos, documents, genetic scans. Every piece pointed to the same truth. Earth had been preparing for contact for over 50 years. Governments had signed covert pacts, exchanging DNA data, biotechnological access, even human subjects. The files labeled it as Phase 1, behavioral conditioning. But deeper still, Cade found logs on Project Veilfire, a secret program built around his father's research. Resonance signatures. Neural alignment. Hybrid compatibility. All roads led to one reality: he wasn't chosen. He was designed. Jessa stood behind him, silent. This isn't just about aliens," Cade muttered. "It's about control." And someone had been orchestrating it from the shadows, playing both species against each other. Cade stared at the final decrypted line, Subject 27, clearance approved. Evolution begins. The data led them to a hidden research facility in the forest, an off-the-books installation buried beneath layers of bureaucratic fiction. Cade and Jessa slipped through its shattered security gate, wind stirring the overgrown path. "They ran," Jessa said. "Or something drove them out." Inside, silence reigned. Computers had been ripped from walls. Blood stained the floors in strange spiral patterns. Cade stopped before a sealed chamber door. On the glass was a smear of fingerprints, human, frantic. "They tried to contain something," he whispered. The chamber powered on as they entered. Inside, stasis pods, 5 of them. 4 cracked open. 1 still pulsing. Cade stepped closer. The pod's label read, 27B, viable sibling. His blood ran cold. Within the glass a figure floated. Female. Same age. Same facial structure. It's not just you, Jessa murmured. You were part of a pair. The past wasn't just rewriting itself, it was replicating. Cade couldn't move. The girl in the pod looked exactly like him, same eyes, same bone structure, suspended in sleep. They made her, he whispered. Jessa nodded grimly. They made both of you. On a nearby console, archived logs revealed the origin. Project Gemini. 2 embryos genetically engineered to resonate with alien frequency. One monitored publicly, the other hidden in deep storage. The logs tracked their separation. Cade's life had been real, but orchestrated. She, his sibling, was never meant to awaken unless he failed. Cade turned to Jessa, fury in his voice. They played us like weapons. But Jessa's expression changed, darkened. They didn't just make you, Cade, they activated you. Before he could speak, a loud thrum rippled through the room. The pod began to unlock. Jessa backed away. You need to decide who you are before someone else decides for you. Because the girl in the pod was waking up. The girl gasped her first breath like it was stolen from the universe. Her eyes flew open, bright, unblinking, scanning the room with eerie familiarity. Cade stepped back, but she whispered his name. Cade. Her voice was his own in mirror. Recognition passed between them, instant and undeniable. You feel it too, don't you? She asked. He did. No. A low hum, like his body was tuning to something beyond human. Jessa raised her weapon. She's not like you. You don't know what they did to her. But Cade stopped her. She is me. Outside, the storm cracked open. Distant shockwaves tore through the forest. Sirens screamed in the distance. Forces were closing in. Cade turned to the girl. Do you know why we're here? She nodded once. To decide who lives. The choice had arrived. Not between war and peace, but between identity and annihilation. The experiment had been activated, and Earth was running out of time. The lab shook as distant explosions echoed through the valley. Cade, Jessa, and the awakened clone fled through underground corridors lit by emergency strobes. We need to get to the uplink tower, Jessa said. It's the only way to broadcast the truth. But Cade couldn't stop glancing at the girl beside him. She walked as if she'd always known how. Spoke with memory that wasn't hers. I don't remember my name, she whispered. They erased it. Cade responded, You're not a mistake, you're proof. Jessa glanced back, tension building. Don't get attached, she was built to fail-safe you. The girl looked at Cade. That's why they fear us. Because we weren't born, we were chosen. The corridor twisted toward a sealed bulkhead. Cade swiped the clearance key. Whoa! It opened into an elevator shaft leading up, toward the surface, toward the truth. But the deeper they went, the more it felt like something was waiting above. The elevator opened into a hidden base buried beneath the mountains. But something was wrong. Too quiet, too clean. No guards. No motion. Just humming equipment and polished steel. This isn't abandoned, Jessa muttered. It's staged. As they entered, lights flicked on automatically. Dozens of screens lit the walls, each displaying biometric data. Of Cade. Of the clone. Of their father. Welcome home, said a voice behind them. Cade spun, weapon raised. A tall figure stepped from the shadows. General Arlen, presumed dead for over a decade. He looked unchanged. I told your father this would come to pass, he said. You were always the contingency. Cade's pulse thundered. You used us. Arlen smiled faintly. I prepared you. He motioned to the clone. She was never a sibling. She's the other half of your code. Together, you're the key. Jessa whispered. He's stalling. But it was too late. The base locked down. They had walked into a trap. Alarms flared. Mechanical doors slammed shut. Turrets dropped from ceilings. Containment protocol active. A synthetic voice echoed. Cade grabbed the clone's hand. Run! Jessa covered their retreat, firing at sensors and cameras as they ducked into a side hallway. He's not alone, she shouted. This whole place is automated. The clone turned back, eyes glowing faintly. He's using neural echoes from the signal to control the base. Cade stared at her. How do you know that? Her silence was answer enough. In a control chamber, Arlen watched them through screens. They still think they're human, he murmured. Let them run. As Cade and Jessa raced through a data center, a security blast caught Jessa's shoulder. She collapsed. You. Go, she yelled. But Cade wouldn't leave her. He dragged her behind cover. The clone stood, expression blank, eyes locking with a turret. It stopped. Shut down. Cade stared. What? Are you? Her reply chilled him. Necessary. They escaped through a ventilation shaft, emerging onto a snowy cliffside. Wind howled. Helicopters circled in the distance. Jessa limped, supported by Cade. The clone walked ahead, eyes scanning the sky. They'll find us again, Jessa said through clenched teeth. Cade didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on the girl. She had shut down the base systems without touching anything. She's connected to them, Jessa continued. Like a terminal with legs. The clone turned, voice quiet. I'm not the enemy. Jessa raised her pistol. But you're not human. The clone didn't flinch. Neither is what's coming. Thunder cracked. A black ship emerged through the clouds, silent and massive. It didn't resemble anything human, or even alien they'd seen before. They activated the beacon, the clone said. And now, they're coming to collect. Cade stared at the ship. Collect what? The clone looked at him. You. His blood ran cold. The sky was falling, and they had been bait all along. The black ship hovered above them, immense, silent, alive. It emitted no heat, no sound, just pressure, like the air was holding its breath. Jessa clutched Cade's arm. We can't fight that. The clone stepped forward, her hands raised. They're here for the resonance, the signal. Cade stepped between them. Then, let's give them something they weren't expecting. But before anyone could move, a spotlight flared down on them. And from the ship, a new figure descended. Not a soldier, not alien. Human. Older. Familiar. No. Cade whispered. His father. Alive. Knife. Wearing alien tech fused to his skin. You were never meant to understand, his father said. Only to evolve. Jessa raised her gun. Cade froze. Clone looked at them both and said, one of us isn't walking away from this. The betrayal wasn't just military. It was blood. The war had come home, and it wore the face of family. Cade stared into his father's altered face, struggling to recognize the man he once idolized. Alien filaments pulsed beneath his skin, his eyes now black voids that shimmered with intelligence, no longer entirely human. You died, Cade whispered. His father stepped closer. I ascended. Silence fell. The clone stood unmoved, watching the reunion unfold with quiet calculation. Jessa raised her weapon again, voice tight. He's compromised. But Cade lowered her hand. Not yet. His father extended a hand. This was never about invasion. It was about inheritance. Our kind, our bloodline, was chosen for integration. Cade flinched. You gave us up, no, the older man said. I evolved us. A tremor ran through the cliffside. The ship above hummed in response, almost like a heartbeat. The truth was undeniable now. Earth hadn't been targeted randomly. It had bred this moment. And Cade was the final variable in a plan that spanned galaxies. Inside the ship, the architecture defied reason. Curved geometry, organic textures, a biomechanical maze that pulsed with light and breath. Cade walked at the center, flanked by the clone and Jessa, his father leading them deeper into the heart of the vessel. This ship was seated in Earth's orbit decades ago, the elder Ramsey explained. Its purpose wasn't invasion. It was selection. The corridors reacted to Cade's presence, doors opening, lights adjusting. You were encoded into its design, his father added. Jessa scanned the walls. So, this ship, it recognizes him? The clone spoke softly. It obeys him. That phrase echoed like thunder in Cade's mind. As they reached the core, a chamber bloomed open, revealing a neural interface unlike anything human. Everything you are, his father said, was meant for this moment. Cade approached the console, torn between purpose and betrayal. Could he trust destiny designed by monsters? Cade placed his hand on the interface. It didn't scan him. It welcomed him. Veins of light surged across the chamber. The ship vibrated, acknowledging its heir. Stop! Jessa shouted, but it was too late. Memories not his own flooded Cade's mind. Visions of alien wars, galaxies torn apart, and ancient civilizations choosing extinction over assimilation. Then, Earth. His image, drawn not as man, but as key. Cade staggered back, breath shallow. They didn't just make me, he gasped. They built me as a failsafe for themselves. The clone stepped forward, placing her hand beside his. Instantly, the vision stabilized. Twin codes, balanced. She's the other half of the signal, his father said. Together you unlock what even the architects feared. Cade turned, eyes wide. Then why am I alive? His father's smile was chilling. Because some locks are never meant to stay closed. And Earth was never yours to keep. Cade tore his hand away, gasping. You used us, he said, staring at his father. You used Mom, Jessa, everyone. His father's expression remained calm. Emotion is the last barrier to ascension. The clone stepped between them. He's right about one thing, we were made for this. But not to be used. To choose. A tremor pulsed through the ship as external forces began breaching its shields. They're coming, Jessa said. Both sides. Alien vessels shimmered into view in the sky. Factions unknown, watching. Cade looked between the interface, the clone, and his father. The ship was both weapon and transmitter. One signal could trigger global submission, or resistance. Make your choice, the clone said. Either way, it changes everything. Cade stepped forward, unsure of what terrified him more, activating the truth or destroying it. The fate of Earth wasn't about survival. It was about alignment. And his blood would decide the future of species. Cade reached out, but this time not to the console. He turned to the clone, placing a hand over her chest, where the light beneath her skin pulsed like a second heart. You don't have to follow what they made us, he said. She looked at him, uncertain. Then what do we do? Cade turned to Jessa, who now pointed her weapon not at the clone, but at his father. End this, she said. Whatever it takes. Cade stepped to the interface, both palms flat. The ship roared to life. The sky trembled. And then, he changed the signal. Instead of submission, it transmitted truth. Every satellite, every device, flooded with the raw data. Experiments, betrayals, the bloodlines. The world was no longer blind. They'll come for you now, his father warned. Cade didn't flinch. Let them. As the transmission ended, the ship's systems collapsed. And in that instant, Cade chose not what he was built for, but who he had become. The transmission rippled across Earth like a detonation of truth. Screens blinked alive in war rooms, refugee camps, and underground bunkers, every person seeing what had been hidden for generations. Panic followed. Then, rage. Then, silence. Cade collapsed to one knee, exhausted from the surge of power that passed through him. The ship dimmed, systems dying. You sent them the truth, Jessa said, lowering her weapon. Now they'll burn the sky to cover it. The clone knelt beside Cade. They can't unsee it, you broke the cycle. But something stirred outside. The alien vessels surrounding the planet shifted formation. They're reacting, Jessa whispered. To what? Cade asked. The clone looked upward. To the activation. A new signal pulsed from the ship. Unintentional. Something had been triggered deep in its core. A fail-safe, old, ancient, and now awake. What did I just do? Cade whispered. None of them had the answer. But whatever it was coming. The ship began to shake, not from external fire but from within. A deep, seismic pulse echoed through its structure. Lights flickered. Structural panels folded open, revealing a hidden chamber deep below the core. Jessa grabbed Cade's arm. We need to move, now. The clones stopped. No, we need to see. Drawn by something unseen, Cade descended into the chamber. What they found wasn't a weapon, but a seed. A biomechanical orb suspended in a field of light, humming with pre-human intelligence. It's a beacon, the clone said. But not to summon them, to awaken us. Cade felt the energy call to him, recognizing him. It's connected to our DNA, he said. Our memories, even before we were born. Jessa stepped back, unnerved. You don't know what that thing will do. But Cade already knew. The signal wasn't sent to control the world. It was sent to unlock it. Earth wasn't being invaded. It was being activated. The orb opened like a blooming flower of light. Tendrils of data and memory surged outward, not in language but in sensation. Cade's mind exploded with images. His father's past, Earth's tampered evolution, ancient extraterrestrial architects, watching humanity like farmers tending soil. We were never alone, he whispered. We were never free. His hands trembled as the light wove around him, rewriting, reconstructing. Jessa shouted, Cade, pull back! But he couldn't. He was no longer just himself. He was everything they had designed, feared, and buried. The clone stepped into the light beside him. It embraced her too. This is what we are, she said. Together, they floated above the floor, suspended in the stream. Jessa watched in horror as alien script etched itself into their skin like living tattoos. You're changing, she gasped. Cade looked down at her, calm and unreadable. We're remembering. And what they remembered had the power to change everything. The ship began collapsing inward. It wasn't destruction, it was transformation. Metal and light peeled into fractal spirals, reassembling around Cade and the clone. They're becoming part of it, Jessa said, backing away. Outside, alien ships hovered motionless, watching, awaiting. Then came the message, not a voice, not from outside, but from within every human on Earth. A feeling, an understanding, unity. Tight wine. The seed is complete, the clone whispered, glowing from within. Earth is no longer a world. It's a node. Cade floated down, his body visibly altered, glowing veins, crystalline irises, something not quite human anymore. We can guide them now, he said. Or we can leave them to ruin. Jessa aimed her gun, then dropped it. So what are you? He turned slowly. I'm what they made, and what I chose to become. The time for war had ended. What came next was evolution. For better, or for much, much worse. The ship disintegrated into the sky, dissolving into particles of light that spread across the world like digital pollen. Cities paused. Skies cleared. And for a single moment, humanity stood in perfect stillness. From Earth's orbit, the alien fleet began to withdraw, not defeated, but satisfied. Their test was complete. On the ground, Cade stood alone, the clone gone, merged or ascended, no one could tell. Jessa approached cautiously. Is it over? Cade looked to the stars. It's begun. He handed her the last piece of data, one final shard from the ship's memory. Show them. All of it. She took it, trembling. And what about you? Cade stepped into the sunrise, silhouetted against the light. I'm not staying. Then he vanished. Into the horizon, into legend. The world now knew the truth. But truth, uncontained, would change them all. Cade had lit the fire. What humanity chose to do with it would define the future forever. The world changed overnight. Nations tried to silence the broadcast, but it was too late. The truth had saturated every frequency, encrypted and translated in every language. Civil unrest ignited. Leaders were ousted. Alliances shattered. The illusion of control evaporated. And somewhere beneath it all, whispers of Cade Ramsey spread like fire. Not as a hero, not as a god, but as the one who revealed the lie. Jessa stood before a united coalition tribunal, exhausted, hollow. She played the final shard, her voice steady. This wasn't war, it was design. Images flooded the screen. Project Veilfire, the Seed's activation, and Cade's last transmission. The room fell into silence. One council member murmured, "So what now?" Jessa looked them in the eye. "No, we evolve, or we die." Earth had reached a tipping point. What followed would not be peace. It would be reckoning. From isolated towns to digital capitals, people argued, protested, vanished. Some demanded answers. Others sought vengeance. Extremist factions claimed the invasion was a divine test. Others believed Cade had betrayed humanity. Truth didn't bring peace. It broke every foundation. But in the shadows, something else began to take root. Children born after the signal reacted differently. Stronger reflexes. Faster cognition. Subtle genetic shifts. The resonance hadn't just been transmitted. It had embedded. Jessa sat in her old apartment, watching newsfeeds scroll with chaos and wonder. Her hand trembled as she replayed Cade's last message, encoded into the shard. "If you're hearing this, you've survived the truth, but that's only the beginning. What comes next will remake everything." His voice faded. Her eyes didn't. The world would never return to what it was, because evolution had already begun, and no one was in control of it anymore. In the outskirts of Cairo, a boy lifted a fallen steel beam with his bare hands. In Siberia, a teenage girl walked unharmed through sub-zero storms. Across the globe, anomalies surged. Scientists couldn't keep up. Governments turned to lockdowns, DNA tracking, fear-based containment. But the signal was already alive, written into code, into air, into blood. Jessa watched as underground networks bloomed, children and young adults forming new alliances, born not with allegiance, but with instinct. They called themselves the Unveiled. No flags. No borders. Only potential. She realized then, Cade hadn't saved the world. He had unlocked it. Whether it led to salvation or extinction no longer mattered. The world wasn't ending. It was mutating. And there would be no going back. In a strange, bittersweet way, this was what he had promised. Not peace. Not order. But truth, unleashed. Deep in the Arctic Circle, a structure awakened. Buried under centuries of ice, it pulsed faintly, responding to the same signal Cade had triggered. Lights flickered on. Doors shifted. And somewhere in the void, systems began aligning. Jessa stood on a transport plane, watching the feed on her tablet, eyes narrowed. "There's more," she said. A voice over her comms confirmed, "We're detecting 6 more like it. Global distribution. All dormant. Until now." Her hands clenched. Kay didn't finish anything. He started it. The signal hadn't been a singular event. It was part of a sequence. One that reached across time, space, and species. Humanity was not the end of the story. It was chapter 1, in someone else's archive. And now, the archive was opening. As the plane banked toward the polar light, Jessa whispered, "This isn't fallout. It's the second wave." A desert wind whispered across cracked stone. Far from the chaos, a figure walked alone, cloaked in silence, footsteps light, gaze forward. Cade Ramsey. Alive, changed. Not fully human, not entirely other. He wandered the edges of civilization, a living echo of a truth no longer hidden. In his mind, the signal still hummed, not with orders, but with questions. What comes after survival? What does it mean to lead a species not yet ready to evolve? He paused at a ridge, the horizon blazing with stars and dust. The truth has a price, he whispered. In his hand a new shard, glowing, unmarked. A key to something else. He dropped it into the sand. Walked on. Behind him, lights flickered beneath the earth, another structure awakening. The war was over. But the game had just begun. And Earth? It was only one planet in a much larger, much older plan.